the ending to the beginning of an entire genre. Cosmic horror being the sort of genre here. And I finally figured something out about this text that has been bothering me the entire time we have been reading it. What is it that a certain part of this text reminds me of? And I figured it out. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another video in a read-along series for, well, The Willows by Algernon Blackwood. This is a video that will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one being the Classic Haunts playlist, a playlist in October of 2025 aimed towards reading some of the more classic horror stories. And number two being the Willows read-along playlist here on the channel. The next video in this series will be the review of The Willows. I hope it is going to be a very good video. I've been working on it for a while. This video will have three sections: a So What Happened section, which is a recap of this portion of the story, a literary criticism section where we talk about all of the literary goings-on in this story, and finally a writer's corner where we talk about the writers, what we can take from this story as writers ourselves. So, what happened? Our narrator tries to lay awake all night, but fails. The Swede awakens in paranoia periodically. Eventually, our narrator wakes up in a panic and realizes that the tent flap is down and the Swede is gone. He rushes out into the night, and the burning from earlier overwhelms him. The humming from earlier overwhelms him. That is my handwriting, I apologize for that. But he is worried for the Swede. Finally, he finds him about to step into the river. Our narrator happens upon the Swede, who is stepping into the fast-running water, and he drags the Swede back to the tent, who then says they have found a victim. So they don't have to sacrifice our narrator and the Swede. They have found a victim that will do. And then he falls asleep. Our narrator watches him closely while bathing, but when our narrator comments that the humming has stopped, the Swede replies, "That's because..." And our narrator finishes the sentence, and the Swede agrees. So that next morning, he has sort of pretended that he has no memory of the night before, but when our narrator baits him into a statement, he makes it. Then he takes off running, and our narrator follows. He points out the body of a man who had drowned in the river. The Swede says they have to bury him. That's the man, that's the victim that they claimed instead of us. So we now are safe, or at least might be. The moment they touch the body, the humming returns. The body drifts away in the water. So there is a sort of pervasive, overwhelming sense of self-sabotage in this story. And I couldn't figure out what it was that it reminded me of, but I knew it was something. I knew this felt so familiar. Not literary, but it was something that I had sort of heard of before. So I want to maybe remind you, or possibly expose you, not expose you to this, but expose you to the idea. I certainly don't want to expose you to Toxoplasma gondii. What is this? I'm going to read you the sort of mumbo-jumbo definition from Wikipedia, and then I'm going to explain it as I understand it. In rodents, T. gondii alters behavior in ways that increase the rodent's chances of being preyed upon by felids. Support for this manipulation hypothesis stems from the studies showing that T. gondii infected rats have a decreased aversion to cat urine, while infection in mice lowers general anxiety, increases explorative behaviors, and increases a loss of aversion to predators in general. Because cats are one of the only hosts within which T. gondii can sexually reproduce, such behavioral manipulations are thought to be evolutionary adaptations that increase the parasite's reproductive success, since rodents that do not avoid cat habitations will more likely become cat prey. The primary mechanisms of T. gondii induced behavioral changes in rodents occur through epigenetic remodeling in neurons that govern the relevant behaviors. So what does that mean? What are we talking about here? As I understand it, the way that this works is that this toxoplasma infects a mouse. But the only real way that toxoplasma can generate more toxoplasma, which is the evolutionary drive that it has, right, is not in a mouse. It's in a cat. So if the toxoplasma the parasite infects a rat, it makes that rat sexually attracted to the smell of cat urine. So just think about this. That parasite infects the rat, makes the rat attracted to cat urine, because the cat's intestines are the only place it can reproduce. But it's not in a cat, it's in a rat. So it makes the rat sexually attracted to cat urine, so that when it smells a cat's urine, it races out towards the urine, meaning that it's going to get eaten by the cat. It is a parasite that takes over, not the brain, right? Just changes one little thing. This story and the overpowering sense of self-sabotage herein is almost as if these characters have been infected with some toxoplasma that makes them want to race into the center where these theys are, whatever they is in this text. There is almost something that is invisible, controlling these characters. You get the sense that the speaker in this, our narrator, is the one who put a hole in the boat, is the one that messed up the paddle, is the one that got rid of the other paddle. The other guy's surprised by this, but our narrator, if you remember, had to say that he wanted to act surprised. Then by the end of this story, we get something really nasty here. But it feels, and that's the next point we'll talk about, so I'm not just putting that out there and not addressing it, but it feels like both of these characters aren't quite on autopilot, but are struggling against something inside of them. That is this rat that's attracted to cat urine has to know, hey baby, something ain't right here. And it's a little bit worse than liking to be choked or whatever, right? And still, that rat will act on that parasite. And the parasite does it just to reproduce inside the cat's digestive system. One of the weirder things you're ever going to read about in nature. But I think that it is a similar sort of overwriting of the preservation mechanism, right? So inside our characters, both of them have said that they are afraid of whatever they is in this story. Both of them are acting out against their mechanisms of self-preservation. the things inside of them which would say, hey, just stay in the tent, man. They're both going out, right? So the second thing that I want to address here, how did the Swede know where to find that man, the dead man that he found at the end of the story? In that portion of the story, he's just sort of explaining to our narrator, yeah, they found somebody. We're off the hook. Things are kosher, baby. And then he starts running, and our narrator follows him, and he finds a dead man. Kind of weird. And if you'll remember, our narrator happens upon him, right? Like, our narrator has to go and intently watch the Swede. Because he had been missing for a little bit, hadn't he? Did the Swede sneak out, kill a man as a sacrifice to the gods, and then decide that whatever they is in charge took him as a sacrifice? Very, very shady there. And then there is just one writer's note here, but I think it's a pretty good one. So it is about the callback at the end of this story. So the very last paragraph here. And so they have found the dead man, right? They have found the dead guy laying in the water. And when I turned my eyes again from his ghastly face to the river, the current had done its work, and the body had been swept away into midstream, and was already beyond our reach and almost out of sight, turning over and over on the waves like an otter. Remember, the otter is the thing that they found earlier that they thought was a dead body. So this is a callback which leaves you with doubt. All of a sudden, you are doubting the previous story where they had found the otter. Was that really a dead body? But also, you have to question the current part of the story. Is this really a dead body? Or have they both just sort of imagined another otter that they have found is a dead guy? Have they just manifested this joint illusion while they are hallucinating an entire run-in with cosmic horror here? I think that is something that you have to question here. And the reason that that's effective is because it normally a callback gives your reader a sense of closure. It is a full circle moment. Here, however, because of the nature of the story, because of the nature of the event in this part of the story, and because of the mental states of both of our characters, finding this dead body is more of an open loop than not. It does not find closure for our reader. It brings up more questions. It is the same thing as if I went A, B, C. You have to say D. You have to say E. You have to say F, right? But if this is not a literal singing of the alphabet, but it is the same principle in your mind, then the moment you set down the Willows, you're still thinking about the Willows, because it is not a closed loop in your mind. It is still an open loop in your mind. So your brain does not turn off the Willows story. And that might not be the most promising thing for many types of story. But for horror, it means you are carrying this story and that open loop with you from the moment you set the story down. That is very effective for horror literature. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.